out and help people to come out of the darkness into the light, see how they've been duped and deceived, so that they're not inadvertently a deceiver themselves by believing the wrong ideas about stuff. What really positive? What is really positive change? Think, speak, and do toward others, especially your enemies, as you would like to be thought of, spoken about, and done to. Pretty simplistic, but true. Have you ever considered that you, I, or anyone else could hold the deciding straw on monumentally important issues? That's right, the power of the individual is a fact. For the advertently evil, that's intentionally evil folks, heaven, quote, would be hell. For the inadvertently evil folks, heaven is an irrelevant, elusive, unattainable pipe dream. They don't get the relevance. So they don't seek the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Heaven is just nonsensical, just, oh, this guy, talking nonsense. The idea of working toward a perfect world. Remember, all, quote, government property, including the treasury, is literally yours and my property. Literally, your name is on government property. Public property is your property. It is my property. Be empowered and go forth with that spirit, that attitude, when educating people, trying to empower other people. Do we have the right to be wrong? And exactly who decides what is right or what is wrong? And who decides what is the qualifier? We need to ask ourselves some very serious questions, folks. Be honest. That's it. Don't have to be intellectual. Be logical. Be honest and be logical and be reasonable. You seek the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and you will find it because you're seeking for a good thing, and God never holds anything good, truly good, He's eternal, from the soul, the person, the individual. He grants it to you in abundance, but you need to be able to handle it and be empowered with that and go forth and see that as very useful and powerful, valuable knowledge to share with others and empower other people. Man, I smell one hell of a pungent odor of general hostility in the air, and it stinks to high heaven. If we indeed have the right to be wrong, can we discuss our differences in a civilized manner? To effectively utilize the extremely powerful weapon of humiliation, we must primarily embrace a spirit of unconditional love, indignation, and indignation over any perceived injustice, and let any perceived injustice take a back seat. The indignation, yes, we've got to let love be the overpowering spirit when it comes to reforming and conforming somebody to what we want them to believe. It's got to be done tactfully in a godly, divine manner. It takes some degree of smarts, mostly intelligence. If you're praying and if you're tuned into the Spirit of God, really, sincerely, genuinely, you want the Spirit to live within you, invite that in, then you'll get it. God's super smart. There's one thing God isn't, and that's stupid. Okay, always remember that. When embracing the sincerest of motivations, it should come as no surprise that one would resent the implication that their motivations are insincere. And that's a spirit we've got to confront each other with. Just suppose, and presume that other people, no matter how you think that they're wrong and how deceived you think they are, and maybe evil, you still got to assume that they believe what they're telling you. If not, it's a huge insult, and they run, not walk away from it. They put up their defenses, their false pride, and whatever you have to say to them is to no avail. It's ineffectual. If we human beings don't make a deliberate, conscious, and concerted effort not to be evil, the chances are very good that we will at least be unwittingly evil. It is written that all things work together for good for all those whom love God and are called according to His purposes in Christ Jesus. And the story that I had, here's a couple of stories I had. One I used to like to tell in church, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church had this story time for the children. But I like this one I had heard somewhere before about this guy that was being, there was this war going on. Let's call it Revolutionary War, Civil War, some other war that you can think of. But it was an unjust war, whatever it was. And this guy was on the wrong side of history. But nevertheless, he was going to be conscripted into the war. And what happened was he fell off a horse and broke his leg. And you say, well, that was really bad that he broke his leg, right? But here's the thing. The army was coming through town and taking all the able-bodied young men, and this guy couldn't go off to this unjust war. So you see, there's an example of how all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purposes in Christ Jesus. So if you let that be your overriding driver of your life and your philosophy, you'll do yourself well. You'll find the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, no matter what you got to go through. If you're addicted to drugs or whatever it is, whatever vices and shortcomings that you have, you will overcome them. Okay, comfort food, all this stuff are big issues in our society. I had an issue. I got on a kick of drinking high fructose corn syrup. Okay, I was poisoning myself unknowingly. And it sounded so stupid. It sounded so innocent. High fructose corn sounds so good. Innocuous, innocent. How could it be bad? Here's the guy with all this knowledge I had. I've been in the health food business since I was a child. Okay, I've read countless books on the subject. I knew better. I went to college and took health science. I knew better. But I got on a kick, and I paid dearly. I got big toe gout. I probably came very close to getting diabetes. Okay, to break down, your kidneys start malfunctioning. I contracted peripheral artery disease, all kinds of issues. You can kill yourself. And the aspartame is just as worse. That stuff they put in the diet soda creates wood alcohol in your blood. But you understand how a bad thing led to something good, led to me getting off the junk. But if I had been a teetotaler and I'd just been drinking a little here and there, I might never have noticed until it was too late. All of a sudden it overcame me and killed me with pancreatic cancer or something like that. So you see, all things work together for good. Even this terrible experience I had to go through with the big toe gout. You wish you were dead. Believe me. You ever get big toe gout? Okay, it happens more with fellas under the age of 50. Beyond 50, it happens equally with men and women. But believe me, you'll wish you were dead. It feels like somebody's holding a torch on your toe. Okay, you can't sleep. You can't do anything. It is miserable. They say it's worse than childbearing pain, but it just goes on and on. It went on and on for weeks. It seemed like it went into years with me. And it was a bad experience, let me tell you. So anyhow, that's the stories I want to tell on that. All things work together for good. A truly good American embraces certain default qualities. We are decidedly egalitarian at our constitutional, God-based core. That's what I believe about being a good American. You've got to be. Look, by default, if you don't believe in equality in regard to these issues, okay, rights, entitlements, then you by default believe in inequality, and then you've got no standing, okay? Nobody to tell anyone where to draw the line. It's a form of elitism, okay? It's a form of hypocrisy, okay? Do you understand the logic behind that thinking? And it's un-American, and it's wrong, it's evil, it's unethical, it's immoral, it's ungodly. So I recommend highly that you prescribe fully to equality in that regard. I'm not talking about I'm equally good musician as Ted Nugent or anything like that, okay? We're all very unequal in many ways, but in that regard, we're all equal. When and if we ever come to our senses, we are inevitably traumatized by the acute distinction between this crap hole excuse for a civilized society and what we could have. Inflation, a perfect excuse for justifying charging more for the goods, services, or a combination thereof that you offer society. That's right. It's a very poor excuse, but it's a pretext. It's a guise for people saying, I got to jack up my cost. My cost went up. I don't care. So what? Now you're left out of loop, so it's going to fall on your back now. If you can't keep up with the Joneses, if you can't adjust your prices accordingly for whatever goods and services you get, you're going to be left in the dust. You're going to be left to perish and die under the bridge. And there's no more welfare. They ran out of money a long time ago. No more Section 8. Sorry. We'll take care of the ones we have, and all that money goes in Rich Dad's pocket or his ilk. and the problem just gets worse, but, don't think about fixing it. The evidence that America is now a cuck nation. We tolerated the assassination of JFK, a highly beloved American president, without demanding that the policy he was